Commander Taejun Park gripped the control panel as his ship, the Stellar Horizon, shuddered violently. The quantum engine had failed without warning, leaving him stranded in an uncharted sector of space. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, bathing his face in an ominous red glow. "Status report," he demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. The ship's AI responded with mechanical calm. "Critical engine failure. Life support operating at 60% capacity. Hull integrity compromised in sections 4 through 7. Taejun ran a hand through his dark hair. He was 3 months into a 2-year solo exploration mission, too far from any Federation outpost for conventional rescue. The situation was dire, but panic wouldn't help. He had trained for emergencies. "Scan for any nearby vessels or habitable planets," he ordered. After a moment, the AI responded. "One vessel detected. Unknown configuration. Distance, 2.7 kilometers." The scanner showed a strange ship unlike anything in Federation records. Its design defied conventional engineering. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with an inner light. The ship was massive, easily 5 times the size of his research vessel. "No identification beacon?" Taejun asked. "Negative. The vessel is not broadcasting any recognized signals." With few options left, Taejun made his decision. "Plot approach course. Prepare emergency docking procedures." As the Stellar Horizon limped toward the alien craft, Taejun gathered essential supplies. His emergency kit, universal translator, and sidearm. He didn't want to appear threatening, but caution was necessary when making first contact. The strange ship made no move to communicate or prevent his approach. Using the remaining thrusters, Taejun maneuvered alongside what appeared to be an airlock. The docking mechanism on his ship searched for compatible connections and, surprisingly, found them. "Atmosphere analysis," he asked. "The vessel contains breathable air. Temperature and pressure within human tolerance range." That was unexpected. Either this was extraordinary coincidence, or the ship had been designed with human-like life forms in mind. Neither explanation was particularly comforting. With a hiss, the airlock sealed between the two ships. Taejun checked his translator one last time and stepped through. The interior of the alien vessel was even more remarkable than its exterior. The corridors curved in flowing lines, the walls a blend of metallic and organic materials that seemed to respond to his presence, lighting up softly as he moved forward. The air carried a faint scent of something like cinnamon mixed with ozone. Taejun moved cautiously, recording everything with his portable scanner. "Hello," he called out. "My ship is damaged. I come seeking assistance." The corridor opened into a vast chamber with a soaring ceiling. At its center stood 3 figures, distinctly female in form, but unmistakably alien. The tallest had skin the color of a deep ocean, iridescent blue that shifted with her movements. Her eyes were entirely black, like polished obsidian, and she wore what appeared to be a form-fitting uniform with intricate patterns that might have been technology or decorative art. It was impossible to tell. To her left stood a smaller figure with violet skin and delicate features. Her eyes were large and expressive, with pupils that changed shape as she studied him. Long, slender fingers ended in points that glowed faintly. The third alien was the most intimidating. Her skin was a deep crimson, covered in fine scales that caught the light. Powerful muscles shifted beneath her armored clothing, and the look she gave Taejun was unmistakably suspicious. The blue-skinned alien stepped forward. "A human male," she said, her voice melodic but emotionless. Unexpected. Taejun startled. She was speaking perfect English. "You know my language." "We know many languages," the violet alien replied, her voice softer. "We have studied your species from afar." The red-scaled alien moved with startling speed, circling Taejun. "He is armed," she noted, pointing to the weapon at his hip. "A precaution only," Taejun explained, slowly removing the sidearm and placing it on the floor. My name is Commander Tajan Park of the Earth Federation vessel Stellar Horizon. My ship suffered critical engine failure. I seek temporary assistance until repairs can be made. The blue alien nodded. I am Minji of the Viridians. My associates are Hannah of the Lysians. She gestured to the violet alien. And Jaian of the Karethi, indicating the red-scaled warrior. You are far from your normal travel routes, human, Minji continued. What brings you to this isolated sector? Exploration, Tajan answered honestly. I'm mapping uncharted regions and cataloging stellar phenomena. Jiyan made a noise that might have been a scoff. Alone. With minimal defenses. Unwise. We too are explorers, of a sort, Hannah said, her large eyes blinking slowly. Though our journey was not by choice. Minji shot her a warning glance before turning back to Tajan. We will discuss your request for assistance. Wait here. The three aliens moved to the far side of the chamber, speaking in low tones in a language his translator couldn't catch. Tajan took the opportunity to scan his surroundings more thoroughly. The technology in this room alone was centuries beyond Federation capabilities. Crystal panels displayed data in three-dimensional projections, while smaller devices floated freely, responding to the aliens' subtle gestures. After several minutes, they returned. Minji spoke first. We can offer limited assistance. Your presence is problematic, but leaving you to die would be unethical. I'm grateful, Tajan replied with a slight bow. I won't impose longer than necessary. That may be longer than you anticipate, Jayan said sharply. Our own propulsion system is damaged. We have been stranded in this sector for over a standard year. This revelation stunned Tajan. You're stranded as well. Hannah nodded, her expression sympathetic. We came seeking solitude, but not permanent isolation. Parts of our ship were damaged passing through an unexpected radiation field. Perhaps we can help each other, Tajan suggested. I'm trained in quantum mechanics and Federation engineering. Maybe together we can solve both our problems. Minji studied him silently for a long moment. Possible. Your technology differs from ours, but certain principles must be universal. You will remain under observation, Jayan added. No communication with your Federation will be permitted until we are certain of your intentions. Tajan understood their caution. 3 alien females alone with an unknown male from a species they clearly had reason to avoid. Their wariness was justified. Agreed, he said. My priority is repair and return to my mission. I mean no harm to you or your vessel. Hannah stepped forward, her movements graceful. You must be hungry after your ordeal. Come, I will show you to quarters and explain our food synthesizers. As Tajan followed her from the chamber, he caught Minji and Jadian, exchanging concerned glances. There was clearly more to their situation than they were sharing, but for now, he was simply grateful for shelter. What had begun as a routine exploration mission had become something far more significant. First contact with not 1 but 3 previously unknown alien species, and based on their reactions, he suspected he was in for a very interesting stay aboard their vessel. Tajan wiped sweat from his brow as he examined the complex engine components spread across the workshop floor. After 2 weeks aboard the alien vessel, which he had learned was called the Celestial Wanderer, he was still struggling to understand its technology. The quantum mechanics were familiar in principle, but applied in ways he had never imagined. You're holding it backward, Minji said flatly, watching from several feet away. The blue-skinned Viridian engineer rarely offered help unless directly asked, preferring to observe his mistakes with clinical detachment. Tajan flipped the crystalline component and tried again. In my defense, there's no clear indication of polarity. It's obvious from the resonance pattern, she replied, as if explaining to a child. The denser molecular structure always faces the energy source. Tajan bit back a frustrated response. Minji's species approached everything through pure mathematics and logic. Concepts like intuition or educated guessing seemed foreign to her. Yet despite her cold demeanor, she was brilliant. Her understanding of quantum engineering surpassed Earth's best minds by centuries. On Earth, we mark our components, he explained. It saves time. Inefficient. One should simply understand the principles rather than rely on external markers. Minji moved closer, her iridescent skin catching the light. However, your persistence is notable. From Minji, this was high praise. Taejin had learned that Viridians rarely acknowledged effort, only results. Their work was interrupted as Hana entered the workshop carrying a tray of food. The violet-skinned Lizen smiled warmly. "You've been working for 6 hours without nourishment," she said. "I've prepared a meal compatible with human digestion." Taejin gratefully accepted the offered food, a stew-like substance with flavors reminiscent of ginger and sweet potato. Hana had been the most welcoming of his alien hosts, using her species' natural empathic abilities to help him adjust to life aboard the Wanderer. "Thank you, Hana. This is delicious." She beamed at the compliment. "I've been studying your species' culinary preferences from our database. Humans find comfort in warm, complex flavors during periods of stress." Minji made a dismissive sound. "Flavor is irrelevant. Nutrition is the only important factor." "That's where you're wrong," Hana countered gently. "Mental well-being affects physical performance. Even Viridians must recognize this correlation." Taejin had witnessed many such philosophical disagreements between the two species. Where Viridians prized cold logic and efficiency, Lysians valued emotional harmony and intuitive understanding. Neither approach was wrong, just dramatically different. As they ate, the workshop door slid open again. Chuyen, the red-scaled Karathi security chief, entered with purposeful strides. Unlike the other two, who wore flowing garments in their species' traditional styles, Jaeyeon's attire was practical and armor-reinforced. "The human's presence has created a security vulnerability," she announced without preamble. 3 systems have experienced unauthorized access attempts since his arrival. Taejin put down his food. "I haven't attempted to access anything outside the designated areas." Jaeyeon's yellow eyes narrowed, perhaps not consciously. "But your Federation technology could contain embedded protocols designed to infiltrate foreign systems." "That's not how our technology works," Taejin protested. "My equipment is scientific, not military." "All technology serves multiple purposes," Chuyen countered. "On my world, we recognize that every tool is potentially a weapon." This revealed much about Karathi culture, a warrior society that saw threats in everything. Jaeyen's species had evolved on a hostile world where survival required constant vigilance. Peace to them was merely the temporary absence of conflict. Minji intervened. "The human's equipment has been thoroughly scanned. The access attempts originate from system degradation in the tertiary networks, a problem that predates his arrival." Jaeyen didn't look convinced, but nodded curtly. "Nevertheless, I've implemented additional security protocols. The human will now require an escort in all sections of the ship." "I understand your caution," Taejin said carefully, "but I can't help repair your engines if I'm constantly supervised." "Then I will supervise you," Jaeyen declared. "I have sufficient technical knowledge." Hana placed a gentle hand on Jaeyen's armored forearm. "Perhaps we could establish scheduled check-ins instead. Trust must begin somewhere." The tension in the room was palpable. Taejin realized he was witnessing not just cultural differences between himself and these aliens, but long-standing philosophical divides between the 3 species themselves. After a tense moment, Jaeyen relented slightly. "Daily security scans and restricted access to critical systems. I will permit this, for now." Later that evening, Taejin was escorted to a different section of the ship, what Hana called the living garden. As the doors opened, he gasped in amazement. The vast chamber was filled with plant life from a dozen worlds. Trees with crystalline leaves that chimed softly in a manufactured breeze, flowers that glowed with bioluminescence, vine-like organisms that seemed to dance with conscious movement. "This is incredible," he whispered. Hana smiled proudly. "This garden sustains us, physically and spiritually." Each species contributed plants from their homeworlds. Even the Karathi? Taejun asked, noticing some particularly dangerous-looking specimens with thorns. Especially the Karathi, Hannah replied. Their world is harsh but beautiful. The red-thorned vines are sacred to them. They symbolize resilience. As they walked among the alien flora, Taejun felt a strange peace. Here, amid this impossible garden, the cultural differences between the ship's inhabitants seemed less important than what they'd created together. "How did you all come to be on this ship?" he asked. 3 different species traveling together must be unusual. Hannah's expression grew somber. Necessity brought us together. Each of our worlds faced challenges. This vessel was meant to find us a new home, somewhere we could coexist safely. Before she could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The lights dimmed to an emergency red glow. "What's happening?" Taejun asked, instinctively reaching for the sidearm he no longer carried. Hannah's eyes widened with fear. "Environmental system failure. The garden's atmospheric regulators are shutting down." Throughout the chamber, plants began to wilt visibly as temperature and pressure fluctuated wildly. Some of the more delicate specimens were already dying, their bioluminescence fading. "Where's the control panel?" Taejun asked urgently. Hannah led him to a crystalline interface on the far wall. The controls were unfamiliar, but the diagnostic information was clear enough. The life support system had suffered a catastrophic failure. "I need Minji here," he said, studying the failing systems. "Communication networks are down," Hannah replied, her voice trembling. "This garden took years to cultivate. If it dies..." Taejun understood immediately. This wasn't just decoration. It was a living connection to the aliens' lost homes. Making a decision, he pried open an access panel beneath the controls. "I might be able to bypass the main system and establish a direct link to the backup regulators," he explained, examining the unfamiliar circuitry. "But I need your help." Together, Human and Listen worked frantically to save the garden. Taejun's Federation training and Hannah's intimate knowledge of the ship's systems proved an effective combination. After 20 tense minutes, the emergency lights faded and the normal ambient glow returned. Minji and Jaeyeon arrived moments later, having manually overridden the locked doors. "What did you do?" Minji demanded, immediately checking the control systems. "He saved the garden," Hannah answered, her voice filled with admiration. "When the systems failed, he found a way to reroute the emergency power." Jaeyeon studied Taejun with new eyes. "You acted to protect something valuable to us, even knowing its loss would not directly harm you." Taejun shrugged. "Beautiful things are worth saving, regardless of who created them." For the first time since his arrival, all 3 aliens looked at him with something approaching respect. Cultural differences remained, but perhaps understanding was possible after all. The morning cycle aboard the Celestial Wanderer began with the gentle brightening of corridor lights, simulating dawn. After 2 months living among the 3 alien species, Taejun had adapted to their 26-hour day. He rose from his bed and prepared for what promised to be a significant day, the first test of their collaborative engine repair efforts. He found Minji already in the engine room, her blue fingers dancing across control panels with practiced precision. The Viridian engineer had grown less dismissive of Taejun's ideas in recent weeks, particularly after he'd introduced her to Federation quantum folding techniques that complemented her own knowledge. "The integration sequence is ready," she stated without looking up. "Your modifications to the power relay have proven adequate." From Minji, this was effusive praise. Taejun smiled as he examined the engine components they had rebuilt together, a hybrid of Earth and alien technology that neither could have created alone. "The theoretical models look promising," he agreed. "Where are Hannah and Jaeyeon?" Observing from the secondary control room, Jaeyeon insisted on safety protocols. The red-scaled Karathi warrior had remained the most suspicious of the 3 aliens, though even her attitude had softened somewhat after Taejun had helped save the living garden. Her protective instincts toward her companions were admirable, if occasionally frustrating. Initiating test sequence, Minji announced, her voice betraying a hint of excitement beneath its usual clinical tone. The reconstructed engine core began to glow with a soft blue light. Quantum particles danced in visible patterns through the transparent conduits. Energy readings climbed steadily on the monitors. Power at 30%, 40%, holding stable at 45%. Taejun reported, watching the gauges. Insufficient for interstellar travel, Minji noted, but a significant improvement. Your Federation techniques for stabilizing quantum fluctuations have merit. The test concluded successfully, and though the engine wasn't yet capable of full power, it represented genuine progress. As they recorded the results, Hana entered with Jaeyeon close behind. The garden is responding well to the improved power flow, Hana said, her violet features animated with enthusiasm. Even the Karathi thorn vines are showing new growth. Jaeyeon nodded curtly. The defensive systems also show increased efficiency. Perhaps the human's presence has some value after all. Taejun had learned this was high praise from the warrior. I was thinking we might celebrate our progress. On Earth, teams often share a meal after reaching a milestone. The aliens exchanged glances, communicating in that silent way they sometimes did. Eventually, Hana smiled. An excellent suggestion. I've been experimenting with new food combinations in the synthesis lab. Later, in what the aliens called the gathering chamber, Taejun found himself seated at a circular table with his 3 hosts. The room's architecture was stunning. Graceful arches framed a transparent ceiling that revealed the star-filled void above. Hana had prepared dishes that accommodated all their biological needs, while attempting to incorporate elements from each culture. This reminds me of something we call a summit on Earth, Taejun remarked as they ate. Different nations coming together despite their differences. Your world has multiple nations, Jaeyeon asked, showing rare curiosity. Yet you identify as one species. Hundreds of nations, actually. Different languages, customs, beliefs. But yes, all human. Minji tilted her head, considering this. Inefficient. Resources would be better allocated under unified control. Perhaps, Taejun conceded. But diversity has advantages too. Different perspectives lead to innovation. Like our collaboration on the engine, Hana suggested. Exactly. Earth technology developed one way, yours another. Together, we've created something new. The conversation flowed more easily than ever before, each alien gradually sharing aspects of their culture. Taejun learned that Viridians communicated complex mathematical concepts through a form of dance, their movements describing equations too intricate for verbal language. Lizans shared emotional experiences through a form of controlled empathic projection, allowing others to briefly feel what they felt. Even Jaeyeon revealed that Karathi warriors conducted elaborate hunting rituals that doubled as historical records, preserving their people's memories through physical movement. In return, Taejun told them about Earth's diverse cultures, its art and music, its troubled history and hopeful future among the stars. He described rainforests and deserts, oceans and mountains, environments as varied as those on their own homeworlds. Your species adapted to all these environments naturally, Minji asked, clearly intrigued. Over thousands of years, yes, humans are remarkably adaptable. This explains much about your approach to problem solving, she observed. You assume variables can change. As the meal concluded, Hana brought out a special drink, a luminescent blue liquid in crystalline cups. This is sacred to my people, she explained. The essence of trust. We share it only with those we consider family. The significance wasn't lost on Taejun. He accepted the cup with appropriate reverence. I'm honored. The human has earned this much, Jaeyeon agreed, her usually stern features softening slightly. They raised their cups in unison. The liquid tasted like nothing Taejun had experienced, sweet yet complex, with an aftertaste that lingered pleasantly. As he drank, a sense of warmth spread through him, not from alcohol, but something more profound. He realized the drink likely contained mild psychoactive elements that facilitated emotional openness among Lizens. "There is something we must discuss," Minji said after they had finished. "Something we have not been entirely forthcoming about." Taejin had suspected the aliens were keeping certain information from him. He remained silent, waiting. "Our journey began as an escape," Hannah explained softly. "Our 3 species lived in a distant star cluster, each on our own worlds, but connected through trade and diplomacy. When the harvesters came, everything changed." "Harvesters?" Taejin asked. Giant's scales darkened with anger. "A species that does not build, only takes. They seek resources and technology, stripping worlds bare. My people fought them directly. We lost." "The Viridians attempted negotiation," Minji added. "We calculated that sharing some technology would satisfy them. We were incorrect. My people, the Lysians, tried to understand them, to find common emotional ground," Hannah said, her large eyes sorrowful. "But the harvesters have no empathy as we understand it. They see other life forms merely as resources." Taejin began to understand. "So this ship, a final collaboration between our surviving populations," Minji confirmed, "designed to carry a small group beyond the harvester's reach, to find a new home or allies who might help us. We are not merely travelers," Jian said quietly. "We are refugees, perhaps the last free representatives of our species." The revelation landed heavily. Taejin now understood their initial suspicion of him, their protective attitude toward their technology and culture. They weren't simply explorers. They were survivors of genocide, carrying the legacy of entire civilizations. "Thank you for trusting me with this," he said simply. Hannah reached across the table, her slender fingers resting lightly on his hand. "You have shown us that perhaps not all species in this galaxy are like the harvesters. That cooperation can exist without domination. When your Federation vessel eventually finds you," Minji said, "we will have decisions to make." Taejin nodded, understanding the implications. Contact with humanity would bring these refugees into a new and uncertain relationship. His actions would determine whether humans would be seen as potential allies or just another threat. "Whatever happens," he promised, "I'll make sure your people are treated with respect." For the first time, Jian smiled, a gesture that transformed her fierce features. "We believe you, Taejin Park. And that is perhaps the most unexpected discovery of our journey." The alarm pierced the quiet of Taejin's quarters, its urgent wail jolting him from sleep. 4 months had passed since his arrival aboard the Celestial Wanderer, and emergency alerts had become rare as the ship's systems stabilized. This was different. The alarm tone indicated an external threat. Pulling on his uniform, Taejin rushed to the command center. The 3 alien women were already there, their normally composed demeanors replaced by obvious tension. Minji stood at the main console, her blue fingers flying across the control surfaces. Julian had donned what appeared to be battle armor, its crimson plates matching her scaled skin. Hannah monitored communication channels, her violet features tight with concentration. "What's happening?" Taejin asked as he joined them. Minji looked up, her black eyes reflecting the pulsing emergency lights. "Unknown," Minji replied. "Possibly random patrol. This sector should be beyond their normal range." Jian's yellow eyes narrowed. "Nothing is beyond their range if resources are detected. They are locusts that consume everything in their path." On the main screen, Taejin could now see the approaching vessel. Unlike the organic elegance of the Wanderer, the harvester ship was angular and predatory, with protruding weapon arrays and scanning dishes. It moved with deliberate purpose, clearly aware of their presence. "They're scanning us," Hannah reported, her voice tight. "Attempting to penetrate our shields." "Can we outrun them?" Taejin asked. Minji shook her head. "Our engine repairs are incomplete. We have limited propulsion, enough for maneuvering but not sustained flight." "Then we fight," Jian stated firmly, checking the weapon systems. "Their technology exceeds ours," Minji countered. Direct confrontation has a success probability of less than 20%. Taejin studied the tactical display, his mind racing. What about the asteroid field we passed last week? It's within our range, right? Minji considered this. Yes, 12 million kilometers at current position, achievable with our engines. Then let's go there, Taejin suggested. The gravitational distortions and mineral deposits might mask our signature and give us a tactical advantage. Jiyan looked impressed. The human thinks like a Karathi. I approve. Without further debate, Minji programmed the course. The Wanderer's engines hummed to life, pushing the massive ship toward the distant asteroid field. On the monitors, they could see the harvester vessel adjusting its course to follow. They're gaining, Hannah reported anxiously. Expected, Minji replied. Their propulsion technology is superior. Taejin examined the weapon systems display. What defenses do we have? Energy shields, disruption cannons, and gravitational mines, Jiyan explained. The mines are our most effective weapon, but supply is limited. An idea formed in Taejin's mind. Can we modify the mines to emit the same radiation signature as our engine core? Minji caught on immediately. Create false targets to confuse their sensors. Possible, but it would require reprogramming the detonation protocols. I can handle that, Taejin offered. His time studying the ship's systems had given him a working knowledge of their technology. If we scatter these decoys throughout the asteroid field, they might chase phantoms while we hide. For the next hour, as the Wanderer raced toward the asteroid field with the harvester ship in pursuit, Taejin and Minji worked frantically to reprogram the gravitational mines. Jiyan prepared the ship's minimal weapons, while Hannah monitored the enemy's communications, searching for any information that might help. They're broadcasting in standard harvester frequencies, Hannah reported. They're calling for additional ships. Then we have limited time, Jiyan growled. Once reinforcements arrive, escape becomes impossible. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a chaotic mass of tumbling rocks ranging from car-sized chunks to massive planetoids. Navigating through this natural maze would be dangerous even at low speeds. Everyone secure yourselves, Minji warned as they approached the field's edge. Gravity compensation may fluctuate during evasive maneuvers. Taejin gripped the nearest support rail as the Wanderer plunged into the asteroid field. Minji's piloting skills were remarkable. She guided the massive ship through narrow gaps between rocks, using the larger asteroids for cover. Behind them, the harvester vessel followed, more cautiously, but with grim determination. Ready the modified mines, Jiyan ordered. Taejin activated the launch sequence, firing mines 1 through 5. As they spoke, a new alert sounded, different from the previous alarm. Minji quickly checked the sensors. Federation signals, she announced, looking at Taejin with an unreadable expression. A human ship is broadcasting standard identification codes. Range, approximately 1 light-year. Taejin felt a complex mix of emotions. After months aboard the Wanderer, the prospect of rescue stirred both relief and uncertainty. He looked at his 3 alien companions, no longer strangers but friends he had fought beside. What do we do? He asked quietly. Taejin stood silently at the observation window, watching as the Federation vessel grew larger against the backdrop of stars. After nearly 2 years aboard the Celestial Wanderer, the sight of a human ship stirred complicated emotions within him. The NSS Horizon was a top-of-the-line research vessel, its sleek design both familiar and somehow foreign after his time among aliens. Your people have found you, Minji stated, joining him at the window. The blue-skinned Viridian's voice carried its usual analytical tone, but Taejin had learned to detect the subtle variations that betrayed emotion. There was uncertainty there, perhaps even concern. Yes, he replied simply. Their long-range scanners must have detected our battle with the harvester ship. Behind them, Hannah and Jiyan entered the observation deck. The Lysian empath immediately sensed the mood, her violet features softening with understanding. Even Jiyan, normally so guarded, seemed subdued as she watched the approaching ship. "We've prepared a complete inventory of components your people could provide," Minji said, handing Taejin a data crystal. "With these parts, we can fully restore our propulsion systems." Taejin nodded. "I'll make sure they understand the urgency." The past few weeks had been tense. After evading the damaged harvester vessel, they had detected Federation signals and made the difficult decision to respond. Contact with humanity was a calculated risk, one that had sparked intense debate among his alien companions. Jian had initially opposed the idea, fearing humans might pose the same threat as the harvesters. Minji had weighed probabilities and reluctantly agreed it was their best option for survival. Hana, ever the peacemaker, had suggested that Taejin's presence among them proved cooperation was possible. The communication link chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the Federation ship. The main screen activated, revealing the face of Captain Junho Kim, a veteran explorer known throughout the Federation. "Commander Park," the captain said, his expression a mixture of disbelief and relief. "When we detected your emergency beacon, we hardly dared hope. You've been listed as missing, presumed dead, for 23 months. It's good to see you too, Captain," Taejin replied with a smile. "My situation has been educational. I'd like to introduce my hosts." He gestured to the 3 aliens standing beside him. "This is Chief Engineer Minji of the Viridians, Cultural Liaison Hana of the Lizans, and Security Director Jian of the Karethi." Captain Kim's professional demeanor couldn't completely hide his astonishment as he regarded the 3 female aliens. "On behalf of the Earth Federation, I extend our gratitude for saving our officer." "The relationship has been mutually beneficial," Minji replied formally. "We request permission to dock," Taejin continued. "There's much to discuss, and the Wanderer requires specific components for repairs." "Permission granted. We'll prepare for your arrival." 3 hours later, Taejin led his 3 companions through the airlock connecting their vessels. It was the first time any of them had left the Wanderer since his arrival. Hana looked around with open curiosity, while Minji scanned everything with subtle measuring glances. Jian remained alert, her warrior's instincts evident in her posture. Captain Kim greeted them personally, along with his senior officers. The humans struggled to hide their fascination with the 3 distinctly different alien species, particularly when Taejin explained that these might be among the last survivors of their respective civilizations. "The harvesters have never entered Federation space," Captain Kim noted as they gathered in the ship's conference room. "But we've heard concerning reports from distant sectors. They will come," Jian stated flatly. "It is only a matter of time. They consume and move on, always expanding their territory. Which is why completing our repairs is urgent," Minji added. "We must continue our journey." Captain Kim exchanged glances with his officers. "Commander Park's report suggests your ship contains technological advances that could benefit both our peoples. The Federation would be interested in establishing formal relations." Taejin watched his alien friends carefully. This was the moment of truth. Would they trust humanity enough to consider alliance rather than continued isolation? Hana spoke first, her melodic voice gentle but firm. "We left our home systems seeking safety and perhaps allies, but we must be certain of your intentions." "The Federation is a cooperative of worlds," Captain Kim explained. "Each member maintains cultural autonomy while contributing to mutual defense and scientific advancement." "Pretty words," Jian observed. The harvesters spoke of mutual benefit to worlds they later stripped bare. An uncomfortable silence followed. Taejin realized he needed to bridge this gap. He was uniquely positioned to understand both sides. "For 2 years," he said quietly, "I've lived among these people. I've seen their courage, their intelligence, and their compassion. They took me in when my ship failed, shared their knowledge, their food, even their sacred rituals." He turned to his alien companions. "And in that time, you've seen how I think, how humans solve problems. You know I would die to protect what you've built." The emotion in his voice seemed to reach them. Even Jian's stern expression softened slightly. "What do you propose?" Minji asked Captain Kim. First, we provide all necessary components to repair your vessel. No conditions attached. Then, if you're willing, we offer sanctuary in Federation space, a star system where your peoples could settle, protected by our defensive network. And in return, Zhu Yan asked suspiciously, cultural and technological exchange. At your discretion, of course. The three aliens excused themselves to discuss the offer privately. When they returned 30 minutes later, their decision was evident in their posture, unity of purpose despite their different natures. We accept your assistance with repairs, Minji announced. Regarding Sanctuary and Alliance, we propose a trial period. 3 of us will serve as ambassadors aboard a Federation vessel, learning your ways directly. The Wanderer will remain in neutral space until we are satisfied of your intentions. Captain Kim looked surprised but nodded. That seems reasonable. Commander Park would be the logical choice to host you, given your existing relationship. Agreed, Minji said. He has earned our trust. Over the next week, Federation engineers worked alongside the aliens to integrate the new components into the Wanderer's systems. Taejun watched with pride as humans and aliens collaborated, finding common ground despite their differences. What had begun as his personal survival had become something far more significant. The first steps toward an alliance that might one day stand against the Harvester threat. On the final day before departure, Taejun stood in the living garden aboard the Wanderer. The alien plants had thrived under his care, symbolic of the unexpected bonds formed during his time aboard. Hannah found him there, among the crystalline trees and glowing flowers. Your people have been kind, she observed, different from what we feared. Most humans want to build, not destroy. Taejun replied, just like your peoples. You will take good care of us, she asked, her large eyes searching his face. As ambassadors, we will be vulnerable. You'll be under my personal protection, he promised. And you'll see Earth, oceans, and mountains, cities and forests. Everything I told you about. And if your leaders decide we are more valuable as study subjects than allies. Taejun shook his head firmly. That won't happen. But if it did, I would stand with you, even against my own kind. Hannah smiled, touching his hand gently. This is why you were sent to us, I think. Not by chance, but by whatever forces guide the stars. Later, as the repaired Wanderer prepared to depart with most of its crew, Taejun stood with Minji, Hannah, and Jaein in the Federation ship's airlock. Each carried a small container of personal items and cultural artifacts, all they would bring to represent their civilizations. The Wanderer will rendezvous with us in 6 months, Minji confirmed. By then, we will know if true alliance is possible. Captain Kim addressed them formally. As representatives of your peoples, you are granted diplomatic status within the Federation. Commander Park will serve as your liaison and guide. Jaein, who had once been the most suspicious of humans, stepped forward. We entrust ourselves to his honor. He has fought beside us and earned the title of warrior among the Karethi. As the 3 aliens boarded the Federation vessel, Taejun felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Their survival, perhaps the survival of their entire species, now depended on humanity proving itself worthy of trust. The stars awaited them, not as strangers meeting in the void, but as companions who had found common ground across the gulf of different worlds. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. As the ship broke orbit and set course for Earth, Taejun stood with his 3 alien friends at the observation window. Below them, the Wanderer grew smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Home, Hannah whispered, looking ahead toward their destination. Not yet, Minji corrected, but perhaps soon. Jaein simply nodded, her warrior's eyes fixed on the future they would build together. And Taejun, caught between 2 worlds, knew that the greatest discovery of his career had not been a strange alien ship, but the universal truth that connection was possible across any distance, even the vast emptiness between stars.